I need someone to raise their hand up high for me. Higher. I'm just joking. Thank you. Now I need you to all think about how you feel. Were you glad that someone was willing to do it? I did. Because if no one did, this talk wouldn't have even started yet. That is volunteering, an act of freely giving time and labor. It can be exciting and enchanting, but it can also be exhausting. Imagine a world where volunteer not only ignites a spark, but also sustains it, where passion fuels action without leading to burnout. Today, I want to challenge a metaphor that was quoted by an SDG advocate. If you don't serve anything to the table, you are on the menu. I've been volunteering since I was in primary school, checking class attendances, participating in compound cleanups, and more. When high school came, I was managing events, and it was so much fun being busy and being able to have the excuse to not be in classes. I didn't exactly realize how lucky I was to have those opportunities until college started and the opportunities halted. I was new to the settings and the people around me, so I didn't know what to do, who to talk to, where I could go, and why I would even bother to do it. Fortunately, I found myself back in the familiar volunteering scene by participating in the school clubs, since it was a compulsory for us to graduate. Hence, I had to. But as time was invested in the clubs, interest and compassion came seeping in as well. The clubs I enrolled in showed me just how much effort it takes to pull something off. And each error they make had an effect to the people that were involved, whether that's a minor tech issue, last-minute changes, etc. I didn't want that. I wanted to see an improvement. I wanted to contribute to an improvement. I didn't want to be on the receiving end, being subjected to the effects of those errors. So I started volunteering more and more, becoming an avid volunteer. But with that came tiredness. I was constantly amending my calendars, updating my to-do list, keeping up with the delegated tasks, delegating those tasks, making sure I have enough time for my family revisions, consultations, and meetings, making sure that no one and nothing was neglected. But I felt like I was neglected. My tiredness and my aspirations became a weapon for some people. From, "You're so good at this, you should do this," to, "How can you even be tired? I mean, you've been doing this for so long. And besides, you were the one that signed up for this, didn't you?" While the expectation to keep helping grew exponentially, the harder it was for me to reject them. And the thrill of having those opportunities was completely replaced by exhaustion. I began to question my motivations and my effectiveness. Was I volunteering out of genuine passion, or am I just doing this because of the pressure? Indeed, volunteering can mean differently for everyone. One sees it as a professional uplift, and the other sees it as a personal development. Regardless, I've experienced profound acts of kindness and care, as well as remarkable displays of courage and bravery. I believe that is something that we need today in a world that revolves around the need to be seen and to be heard. Let's take a real-world example, the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, when the pandemic hit, our healthcare system were stretched to their limits. Frontline workers were overwhelmed, and resources were scarce. It was a time of uncertainty, fear, and immense pressure. Yet, in the face of these challenges, thousands and thousands of volunteers actually stepped up. Volunteers helped from distributing vaccinations, conducting vaccination drives, and even providing mental health support to those isolated from their loved ones. Imagine for a moment if no one had been willing to do that. No one had been willing to step up to volunteer during that crisis. What do you think would have happened? Our already strained healthcare system would have collapsed under the pressure of that pandemic. Vaccination drives would have lagged, resulting in more lives lost. So the importance and the role of these volunteers could not be overstated. They were the very backbone of our response, ensuring that communities could survive and eventually thrive. This example vividly shows how volunteerism is not just about lending a hand, it's about saving lives and supporting the fabric of our society in times of need. A recipient of the 2024 Youth Day Award once said, "To volunteer is to be human." With all these challenges mentioned, it's time for a radical shift towards sustainable services, where it envisions a future where volunteers are empowered, supported, receiving resources, trainings, and a supportive network to prevent burnout and foster a sense of belonging. Imagine a community table with a seat for everyone. By prioritizing collective action and individual well-being, we can create a world where everyone's contributions are valued and where self-care is seen as essential for the long-term impact. Let's not shy away from addressing negative motivations behind volunteerism. Let's focus on advocating for a shift towards genuine passion, purpose, and a commitment to long-term impact. By promoting ethical volunteerism, we can combat negativity and foster others to join in the positive change. With all that, I'm happy to say that I am much better at saying no thank you and calling people out on their distasteful behaviors. It's brought me a better outlook on time and energy management. So to the organizations that involves volunteers in their honorable projects, check up on them. And to the volunteers, make sure that the opportunities you take nurture you to be the best version of yourself, physically, mentally, and emotionally. In closing, let's remember that sustainable volunteerism is not just about what we do, it's about how we do it. Yes, if you don't serve anything to the table, you are on the menu, but that does not justify the participants of that table to be neglected. By promoting collective action and individual well-being, we can create a world where everyone has a seat at that table and everyone's valued and everyone's contributions are valued. To the volunteer that raised your hand, thank you, and thank you to all.